Good to see you all. How's everybody doing? You're good? No, we're going to go through everybody. You're good? Hungry? There's SpiderMan there. Miles Morales is here. Good to see you. You just heard I'm Andrew Reiner, executive editor of Game Informer magazine. I've been in the video game industry for 25 years. I've been to every E3. And one of the coolest things I get to do is visit game studios to see projects that are in the works. They're not done yet. One of the best of my career happened recently. I got to go to Insomniac Games to check out SpiderMan. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Marvel SpiderMan coming exclusively to PlayStation 4 on September 7. So let's get Insomniac out here. First off, we have Bryan Intihar, creative director. Next up, we got John Paquette, lead writer. Hey guys. Jacinda Chu, art director. Ryan Smith, game director. And then from Marvel Game Studios, creative director Bill Rosemann.
Hello, true believers!
Yeah.
Like the shirts, yes, Spidey Squad in the house.
All right, so we got a lot of stuff to show you in a short amount of time, but we're going to try to get to it. But I was going to ask you how the game was going, but Bryan, what's going on with your shirt?
Oh, Symcaria? I don't know. It's a pretty cool place to go visit.
What color is this here?
It's nice silver. You know, represents the silver mountains of Symcaria. So I thought, you know, show it off today.
Does this tie
Do you need
into
to
the game
model
in
it?
any
You want me
way?
to like just show it off and, you know, do a little dance? Or, no, I figure you know, it's a good place to visit.
So, yeah, one of the characters that goes there is what? Silver Sable?
Possibly.
Sounds okay. Yeah. There's a little tease, perhaps.
Just a little. Just a little one.
But I want to ask you, how's development coming along? Where are you guys at right now?
So we're in our final stretch. You know, we're racing toward the finish line, and it's about, you know, fixing the bugs, polishing, and just game balancing and all that kind of fun stuff. So the team's working extremely hard. Doing 2 E3 demos plus trying to finish a game is a challenge, is a nice way to say it, but we're super pumped and couldn't be more thrilled.
I just put in like 20 bugs this morning.
Yeah. Did you really?
Scott's going to be mad at me.
So is this what the entire team is doing, is just squashing bugs, playing the game as much as possible?
Yeah.
What about you, Jacinda, on the art side?
Oh, yeah, same thing. I mean, I'm pretty much just playing the game, writing up bugs, and then for us, like, we're reviewing all the cinematics, because that's the stuff that comes in at the end. So it's been super exciting, and like I keep saying, I kind of want the game to end, but I don't want it to end because we want to keep putting more work into it.
Yeah, so I think someone asked me, when am I going to stop writing bugs? I said, never. Like, I'm just not. It just, you know, but I mean, we just want it to be, I mean, we get a lot of tweets every day about how important this game is to everybody. It's just as important to us, and it's about delivering the best thing we possibly can. And so we're going to work to the last second to get it right.
And you're not adding any more content at this point. It is
right.
Forbidden
John,
at this point?
I don't think so. I don't think we're allowed right now.
Yeah. Our producers in the audience and listening would hopefully say we're not.
Yeah, it's all about polishing what we have and balancing those full playthroughs, making sure all the systems are tying together and working really great.
Yeah. And it's the final stretch for you guys going into launch again on September 7th. And you had a big E3. You are having a big E3.
Yes.
You closed out Sony's press conference. That's usually where the big games get to sit, right? So, like, what was that like for you guys? Ryan, like, what was it like seeing that on stage like that?
It was super awesome, especially when they had the 3 wide screens with the fly-in on the raft. That was super awesome to see. And then just hearing the reaction from everybody, like when the web blossom went off, and just that moment was like something you had in your head, and there it was on screen. It was super awesome. And the other Sony games were also terrific.
Yeah, I mean, those are some really big games on the first-party side. You know, obviously, it started with Last of Us, which, wow. Death Stranding, someone help explain it to me.
Also, wow.
I think
I'm not smart enough to understand it.
FedEx
and then,
worker or
then
something.
Ghost
I don't know.
From Sucker Punch. It was really cool to see how they gone from Infamous to something like this. It's super original, and it's really, I've always said, it's really awesome to be part of that first-party group and to be up there with those type of studios. It's a pretty big honor.
And with games like this, you usually get a reveal here or there, a villain here or there, but you guys just knocked the door down and kind of teased what appeared to be a Sinister.
Very sinister.
Rather sinister group.
Yeah.
It was really cool coming up to the show. Everyone was saying, "Oh, Mr. Negative is so cool, awesome." Man, I hope maybe they show us one more villain at E3, and we're like, how about 4 more?
Yeah.
So it was fun that we were able to keep those cards under our sleeves, and that knock on wood, we had no spoilers, and it was just hey, we know all the fans' eyes are on E3, so it was a thrill and an honor to be able to deliver all that cool stuff to the fans on the biggest stage of the world for games.
And I remember last year when we really focused on Mr. Negative last year.
Right.
And people were like, oh, I want more classic villains. And I was like, oh, you just wait.
Stay tuned, true believer.
Yeah.
Well, how about we take a look at that footage again?
Sure.
And we're going to talk over stuff. If you haven't seen it before, definitely go check it out on your computer with surround sound, whatever you can do, because it is very cool. But we're going to take a look at the footage, and yeah, let's see what happens here.
I love just the first 5 seconds of it, seeing the water. It's awesome.
And I love the floating text there that we took right from the comic books and explains
the
where
raft
you
is
are.
secure, but I can't reach them over radio. Their comms must be down.
Is that something you
What's
do
your
throughout
status?
Already here. Yuri? I thought you said it was secure.
It was. Let's go. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks.
Love the optimism.
So obviously that's
in my
Yuri Watanabe,
when it looks
Spider-Man's
bad,
first contact on the Force,
it's usually
and
worse.
she's one of the few people who trusts Spider-Man, thinks he's good for the city. His relationship with the city, fluctuates between hero and menace, as J. Jonah Jameson likes to say on his radio show, Just the Facts. And obviously we just saw our first villain, Electro. Doesn't like helicopters very much.
And helicopters are in the game world. You can interact with them. Can you hang on the side like that?
At certain points you can. Not all the time, but we do have... Actually, there are moments where you actually can swing off.
That would be too dangerous to hang on helicopters all the way through.
Welcome to the party. Just in time for the fireworks.
How many times do you think we've all seen this?
I know.
And we're getting ready for E3. It's nuts. We reviewed these things so many times.
Are there any Easter eggs in here people should be looking for?
I think it just shows you that there's obviously
Got it.
Rikers,
I'll
but
go
then there's
join
also
the
the
party.
raft, and we wanted these guys to feel a little extra special, and they obviously have this, you'll see like the lights on their bodies. Those are kind of extra special security that raft raft prisoners have to wear. And when Electro sets them free, he kind of lets them go hog wild to their lights. The lights change, let you know that they are ready to kick Spider-Man's butt. But as we see, it's happening the other way around.
And Bill,
Yes.
Raft is something that's somewhat new in the Spider-Man continuity. It is a certain facility. Can you go into exactly what it is?
What's so cool about it, at Marvel, we always like to elevate things. So, in the real world, there's Rikers and maximum security, and we're like, what's the maximum security prison for superhuman prisoners? And that is the Raft. And people have seen a version of the Raft in some of our films, and we decided, hey, we, as with everything, we want to put our own stamp on it. So it was really great to see how it was designed to look distinct, and it's one of my favorite locations in the game. It's just so dramatic and awesome.
in the last 8 years. No biggie.
Oh, look at that
Here-
tail.
Here's number 3. Because 2 wasn't enough.
Good to be true. Scorpion, can you hold on a minute? I was in
So
the
I got a
middle of
question
phone
for you
call
guys.
and it was
Maybe
business.
you, John, as a Spider-Man fan, did you just have a wall of all the villains and just you wanted to put them all in the game? How do you settle on who's going to be in
That
there?
was, people often ask what's the hardest part about, working on this game, and I think that is one of the hardest parts. There's so many cool things in the Spider-Man universe. You have to make choices about what to include. So, of course, in the beginning we were like, oh, we can do this, and we can do that, and we can, but you can't if you want to, create a coherent story. You have to pick and choose, certain villains, and then what we wanted to do was go a little bit deeper on them and really understand who they are, what motivates them, that kind of thing.
Come on,
The villains have to
Spider-Man.
work for
I thought this
gameplay
was a
too.
shame.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also for the story.
Gotta stop this guy.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked us this week, like, how do we go about choosing them? And it's one, absolutely how it works with the story. And if there's a connection between the Peter Parker side and the Spider-Man side, that's a huge bonus. Excuse me. And you get that with Mr. Negative, with, running the Fee Shelter. And Aunt working there. But at the same time, we wanted design challenge. When you look at characters like Rhino, Electro, soon to be a flying vulture, they all present different challenges for Spider-Man. So we wanted to have that that blend between gameplay bonus, and as well as story.
And Jacinda, in terms of the design of the raft, and this sequence in particular, I know a lot of storytellers and artists will theme what's going on. Like, they won't tell you what exactly is happening, but it's very dark. It's raining. Like, that can maybe say like something bad's going to happen to Spider-Man. Is that something you were looking at in terms of like the art design for this moment in particular?
Yes, definitely, because we wanted to make sure that the game reflects what's actually happening, in the story. And I know early on people were asking like, how many times a day there are. So we were really waiting to reveal the rain and the nighttime sky and the lights to make everything really pop. And if you notice when you're watching the footage, all the villains and their powers also really pop off the screen as well, which I think really works to make it look almost like a Marvel comic.
Every time we would have an E3 meeting, we'd talk about the wet shaders. Me being a writer, I'm not smart enough to know what goes into wet shaders, but I know it's a big topic of conversation. We gotta get the wet shaders right.
Yeah, everything's gotta look wet. And then when we did get them to look wet, we had to crank it to 11 because I said make it more wet because we gotta bring the rain.
Yeah, and I think the art team did such a great job. As you mentioned, yeah, it is dark, it is raining, but in everything that Marvel does, there's also a lot of color and vibrancy. And I think the art team did a fantastic job in designing the villains so that when you look at it, there's a lot of color here, and especially you'll see this next one when all the villains gather around Spider-Man. You see the pops of the green and the yellow and the red, and Spider-Man's red and blue itself and the white. So there's a lot of color to it, even though it's a dark scene. There's always light and color in everything that Marvel does.
And Ryan, is this just a cutscene? Are you interacting with this moment?
In this place, it's a cutscene, but then later on in the game, you will face off these villains. And they each have a different sort of angle on the gameplay that you have to take care of them with. Like, obviously Vulture's flying, right? So that poses a unique challenge. Rhino, we're really emphasizing his strength and how physical he is, how threatening he is, just that size.
We don't have to do this at all.
And I will say, not going a little tease, is wait till you guys see what we do with Mr. Negative. Just this is a testament to Bill and his team, Mike Jones, Eric Monticelli, Tim Sang. We are definitely trying some different things with Mr. Negative that you might have not seen in the comics. And it's been really awesome to take a character like that and try some different things. And I'm really pumped when people see the interactions that you have with Mr. Negative and what he can do to Spider-Man and really get pretty crazy.
Where does this take place in the game? This particular moment?
After the beginning and before the end. No, it's on this. It's this. Sorry, I told him I was going to say that. I'm not that smart. And funny. It happens in the second half of the game.
Okay.
And things really change after this. And obviously, the question is, who is the person at the end?
Yeah, who is the person?
Well, there's a lot of theories.
It's Iron Man. I heard Iron Man.
Iron Man. It's Iron Man. It's Iron Man. I've heard Jackal.
I mean, Iron Man is like a block away, right? Like Avengers Tower. You're going to see this in the gameplay later. It is like right around the corner.
He's busy.
Yeah, he's busy somewhere else.
He's got things
vacation.
to do. He's doing.
He's maybe busy with another developer right now. Who knows? I don't know. Him and the guy's maybe busy with somebody else.
People.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's
it's a big deal.
You're not going to tell me this. Can you tell me in the collector's edition? I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's a statue that comes with this.
Yeah.
There is.
Spider-Man's on the top.
That's right.
Yeah. But on the bottom, you guys are hiding something. It's a box and it says can't reveal it yet.
Here's the cool thing. Like all of us love surprises. That's part of the joy of playing games. It's part of the joy of storytelling is you want that surprise, and we want to save that for the players. We want to preserve that. So not only in all the graphics we've shown of the collector's edition, it's blocked off, but when you actually get the collector's edition and you look inside, it will still be preserved. And it will say, "Don't open this until you have played the game."
So don't open it until you finish the game, or just turn it on and then just rip it open.
I think you should just play the game, and then when you think you figured it out, open it and take the chance. I mean, it's up to you guys. You'll maybe figure it out soon.
If you open it, you better not put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Yes. All of you out there,
respect your fellow fan.
And I think that that's the thing we struggle with at these events. Like, how much do we say? How much do we tell? Because we do want it to be have surprises. Like, people ask me, where does Peter work? I'm never gonna tell you until this game comes out. Never, ever, ever going to tell you where Peter works.
Domino's.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there is no pizza delivery in this game. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I think we battle with that back and forth about how much do we talk about, because this character in this franchise, and Marvel in particular, is so beloved by so many people. Everybody wants everything. And I'm like, no, it'll be better if we can just hold back, because there are a lot of things we want to talk about. We just want to hold some things back.
What if Domino's offers us free pizza for life if we give him a job at Domino's? Could we do that?
Yeah, he'd have his job as a scientist, Spider-Man, and Domino's.
Yeah.
He'd do both.
Yeah.
Might pay his bills finally. So. Yeah.
One thing we can talk about are these villains, and we brought some concept art. Oh. Talk about this one here.
What's cool about this is an early look at Mr. Negative, and you'll see he looks different from his final design, but that's when we were playing around with different looks and seeing what we could do with him. And I think in this one, we liked several elements of it, but we thought maybe he looked a bit young for his role in the story.
Yeah, and that's how we had originally designed Mr. Negative. He was actually supposed to be a younger Mr. Negative.
And he had a hoodie.
Yeah, sorry.
Because, the youths wear the hoodies.
Yeah, 41-year-old Bryan is trying to be a young guy. Yeah.
So he actually had like a leather blazer on, and he had like a black hoodie, So he was like really, really cool looking. But I think we started deviating too much from the essential essence of who Mr. Negative is.
And just his role in the story was a more mature, commanding respect from a large group, and we felt that he needed to be.
And I also think it helped with the May Lee.
Yeah, May's boss doesn't wear a hoodie.
Lee's boss does not wear a hoodie, and that's kind of part of the process as we explore, we change things. The story starts to evolve and starts to crystallize, and then that reflects the character design, and then we ask people to remake the model and all those fun things. And
actually, the old one was actually in the game for a while. So he did walk around in a hoodie for a little bit.
Yeah, he did for a little while. He had the hoodie.
You guys got to release that stuff. A lot of developers just put stuff in a box and they never talk about it again. But I love seeing the early stuff. Like once you finish the game, that bonus content is.
I'll send you a bunch of bad jokes.
And then we have Electro.
And he's the most different out of all of them compared to the comic book versions, right?
Yeah, he was definitely the most challenging one to design, because if you guys are familiar with the original Electro, he's got like this giant
star mask.
Yeah, star-shaped electricity mask, and he kind of has like yellow underwear on. So it's one of those things that we had to think about what was essential to the character, and you can see that we kept the green and the yellow, and then we just put that star-shaped pattern onto his face as a scar.
Right, exactly. So we for each of the villains, we started just with talking, like, what are the key elements that make him Electro and not an electrically powered villain? So we talked about what are his core colors, as you said. There's the green, there's the yellow. Now in the films they did the blue coloring. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to do our own thing, as we did with all the characters. So we went with the green and the yellow. And as Jacinda said, on his face we were talking about how can we get, or how can we gesture to that classic Electro mask? And we tried different versions, and we knew it was going to look odd on screen. And then we kind of hatched the idea of, what if in his origin, when he got his powers, the electricity scarred his face? And what if the scars on his face are in the shape of the Electro classic mask? And so that's just a nod out there. If you're not a really deep Spider-Man fan who have read years of comic books, you still look at him and say, oh, he looks cool. But if you are a fan who happens to come from the comic books and you see that little nod, you're like, I see what they did there.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's fans making the game for the fans.
And we're running out of time, so we'll go through these pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So Rhino, pretty classic, buffed up.
Yeah, showing off his abs a little bit. He's got a, and him's all about strength, and it's about power. And again, we chose he's very different from Electro, obviously. So we wanted to vary up, who Spider-Man fights, and he presents different challenges for him. But he's a really fun character. I love that design. I think it's great.
And Ryan, of all these bosses that we're seeing, or these villains we're seeing, which one are you the most excited for people to take on?
Man, I really like Mr. Negative. We were able to take his character and the true sort of core of his character and really push it sort of all the way. That's something we worked really hard with Bill on, to get that identity pushed through the gameplay. So I think that's really cool. Scorpion's really awesome because he moves. I don't want to say like Spider-Man, but he's a more agile character like Spider-Man is, and so that's a new kind of fight. and of course he has his poison as well. So that's an opportunity for us in the gameplay. Yeah.
Nice cover. I like it.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, there he is. Oh yeah,
And then there's Vulture.
love that design.
I think, was this the first villain design
It
we
might
saw in the history? And I just love what they did there. The idea of that the wings were metal, and the idea we talked about what could we do with his face, and the brilliant idea of maybe his what he wears is like a pilot's air supply, and if we give it that yellow color, it's like a beak.
Yeah.
So just a brilliant modernization, a cool imagination of what Vulture could be. And it was being done at the same time and separate from Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
So we did. Each of us knew we had Vulture in the film, Vulture in the game, but we were both designing things on a separate track and doing our own flavor. And I think they both looked distinctly cool and unique.
Yeah.
And now I think we might have some live gameplay. Is that or?
Well, we'll see if it's live or not.
Live.
Yes.
What?
Wait,
Yes.
I think it's live. Well, I wish someone would tell us if it was live.
Yeah, we had a bit of a scare with the console maybe not being here.
So
Someone had to run through the streets with the console in a bag
I
bring it here to give you
I
this.
think it's important to talk about that. A lot of people have asked, well, is it really open world? And the answer is hell freaking yes. You don't make a Spider-Man game and not make it open world. And I mean, a lot of people saw our E3 demo last year and were like, well, is that really in New York City? The answer is yes, we can swing around. And, obviously we showed the raft and we want to show off the villains, but this is actually the first time that players can get their hands on the game and experience traversal, combat, but also explore New York City. And you can do that at any time between our main missions, and we'll have a lot of optional activity for you to try out.
And how powered up, Ryan, is Spider-Man at this point?
He's definitely fairly powered up here. We wanted to give people a taste of sort of the superpower aspect that you get. It's hard to say if it's sort of halfway through the game, something like that. Maybe not quite halfway. But yeah, so you've got gadgets in your gadget wheel. There's the trip mine. There's a web bomb. So all those are different things you can deploy in combat. Then obviously for us, getting webs in combat was one of the main things we were doing. So you're also seeing the web shooter and swing kick in this one, which is an upgrade that we have.
Okay, one of the questions I get asked the most, I asked my Twitter followers if they had any questions for you guys. And one that came up a lot that I was surprised by was how much you can minimize the HUD. Like, can you turn things on and off?
Right. I let him answer the hard questions like I did yesterday.
No, we do that all behind the scenes for you so that we can get, like, when you're swinging, we do turn a lot of things off. We don't have the full control that you're seeing in some other games. But we do try and keep it really nice and clean as much as we can.
And this particular thing here, is this something that happens throughout the game? Like, are you going to certain points, or is it just for the demo?
For this was just certain for the demo to kind of let you see, like, hey, there are a lot of different activities in the world that you can do.
There are moments in the real game where you'll see that same sort of pan.
Yeah, as you kind of like unlock a district in terms of like getting the coverage of what's happening in that area. But you do get an idea of what's in that world, and you can do this like on the fly. You don't have to go to you can go to the map, the pause menu map if you want, but you don't have to actually. You can just ping the world. And those are collectibles. We have backpacks.
So there's webbed up backpacks that Spider-Man has put around the city for himself. In each one, you'll find items that give a little more story and background
and I love
on
how,
Peter.
It allows us to, this is a Spider-Man who's been out in the city for like 8 years. He's been doing his thing. And this allows us to fill in some of that backstory, like what he's been doing in the past 8 years, what are some of the mementos that he's kept around.
So this is another thing, it's hard in an open world demo on stage to teach everybody everything, but there are moments where you actually can use stealth if you want to, and kind of thin the herd. I mean, we showed you when you came by the studio, there are opportunities in missions, side content to actually take a little bit more of a cerebral approach to taking out the villain.
Is it ever required?
You can use your gadgets in stealth ways as well.
Oh yeah.
You can use the trip mine right here.
Oh yeah. This I think yes. This is Adam, one of our combat designers playing, and he's really, really good at the game. So he actually used a tripwire to stick to the wall and set up a path so the guy would stick to the wall.
And people can play this demo at E3.
Yeah, this is the exact same thing we're actually playing.
No?
From midair?
Oh yeah.
That was cool.
Oh yeah, finding ways to let Spider-Man do his actions in midair.
Hurricanrana.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that's really funny. What just John said is like, we figure these things out like as we've been all playing the game a lot. We're starting to like. There was one day where I was trying to take guys out stealthily, and instead of using the web shooter to kind of get their attention,
Spidey doesn't kill.
I used a web tripwire, and then I guided him over, and he just stepped in the tripwire and took him out. So there's a lot of sandbox gameplay opportunities that you'll find.
And is there any chance that this demo will make it onto PSN? Is it something
I think the answer is
we're
we're not very focused on getting the game done for September 7th.
That is a non-answer. I'm going to say yes. No.
Yeah. I think for right now we have to make sure that everything's buttoned up for September 7th because I know at the end of the day that's the most important thing, you guys.
And is there any chance we could cruise around and see like Avengers Tower, stuff like that?
I don't know if you can get all the way to Avengers Tower in this demo, but you can get to a point and see it for sure. Yeah, we have. I mean, one thing is we want this to be a Marvel New York, so you're going to see Avengers Tower, you're going to see the Wakandan Embassy, the Sanctum Sanctorum, and some other surprises on September 7th.
Now, when you approach those locations, does anything happen? Do you hear anything?
He talks about those things.
Yeah.
And there might be something else gameplay related that you can do. That he talks more about those places in the world that we're not ready to talk about just yet.
And Jacinda, time of day obviously paints everything in a completely different light. You are sculpting that based on the story.
Yes.
Here we're looking at it. It's kind of looks like it's almost nightfall.
Yeah, it's basically sunset, so it's the golden hour. So we wanted to show players a different time of day because I know we've been showing a lot of basically afternoon sun. So.
And you can't change the time of day in the game itself, but once you complete the game.
Yeah, so the idea is that as you play through the main story, depending on where you are in the story, that we will change time of day and weather. And to we want to use time of day and weather to actually reflect tone in terms of what's happening in the main story. But after you finish it, you can jump back in the world, finish any side activities that you want, as well as use the resource stations to actually change time of day and weather to whatever you want to play. So if you're like, I want to swing around at night, turn it to nighttime and go hog wild.
And Ryan, do you want to go into just a little bit the complexity of web swinging and what kind of moves are being used here?
Sure. I mean, if you want to think about complexity, it's the first thing we started working on for the title. So, and it's gonna keep going and getting tweaks and tunes all the way till the very end. I guess the main thing is starting point was those webs are attached to the buildings that you see. It was really important for us as one of our key just starting points. We want to make sure it's swinging and not flying, right? SpiderMan. From there, we're talking about what are the other moves that the player can do to get around the city interesting. Obviously, you can run up these walls, and he's going straight. You have controllability on the walls. He's going to go all the way up to the top of this tower, I know it. And there's also sort of web whip moves you can go around. Here we go.
Yeah,
this is a nice shot.
So there's the raft to the right, and then we have Avenger Tower in the background.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's that's a
Marvel's
testament
New York.
to.
It's all playable.
That never gets old, by the way.
And
then obviously jumping
that
off
doesn't get old either.
But I think that's a testament to our environment team, our designers who crafted this world, and we took, obviously,
and our tech,
oh my God, yeah. I mean, this character goes twice as fast as our Sunset character, so I'm going to thank all of Insomniac just because it takes a whole team effort to really push open world.
So we got this is a side activity or a crime that's going on. Wow, he took care of that very quickly.
He used the web blossom, the superpower.
Yeah, that's a superpower.
But if you take a really close look at some of these buildings, one of the things I was kind of marveling at was...
I like that.
I like that word.
Yeah.
Nice.
Don't take that.
Thank you, brother.
But
you owe him like $500 for saying that.
But if you look in the windows, there's a lot of detail in just all these little buildings. Like, a lot of them are unique. People are going about their own business.
High five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Spidey.
Yeah, one of the cool things is that the city, it's constantly reflecting what's going on in the story.
Yeah.
So like the citizens feel differently about Spider-Man at different points in the game.
Yeah. But if we want to get some audience Q&A in, we should get to the boss fight. And who are we going to see, Bill?
I believe we are going to see the Shocker.
Yeah, if he is triggering.
We might not have time to show him.
I mean, people can see Shocker, but they want to ask questions. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, let's do that.
Questions.
Let's. We have a live mic out here somewhere.
Does anybody
there we
want
go.
to ask?
Anybody? Oh my goodness.
Show of hands.
All right. Mr. Incredible.
You pulled from previous Spider-Man games as far as inspiration goes, as far as like the mechanics go and everything like that?
Do you want me to answer that?
Go for it, Bryan.
Okay. I mean, yes, we've played them all.
Yeah.
And we obviously looked at them, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that we were making it feel like an Insomniac game as well. And the thing we've really been pushing for the last, let's say, year is not only to make it feel like a Spider-Man game, but to inject that Insomniac DNA into the combat, the traversal, a lot of the suit powers and the gadgets. That's very much rooted in Insomniac, our DNA. So yes, those are great games, and we've played them. Yes, we've played Spider-Man 2. But it was really important for us to have it feel like an Insomniac title.
How you doing? I was wondering, if you were to compare it to previous games you made, like your recent reboot to Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive, which one of those two titles, because both of those titles are amazing with traversal, which one would you say influenced your traversal system in this the most, if at all?
Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think both those games had a pretty big impact. I definitely think this open world grew out of the Sunset Overdrive traversal system. A lot of the same people that were able to work on that worked on this really closely, the world design, and I think you can feel it. And then when it comes to combat, I mean, having the Ratchet influence on the gadget and the suit powers, like Bryan was just mentioning, that's another way you see that Insomniac DNA coming through.
Miles Morales is holding up his hand.
Hey, Miles.
So I was wondering.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, how hard is it to figure out the different suit powers? How challenging is that for each suit?
Well, it's really hard, but I can tell you that's actually, I'm glad you asked that question because it's probably one of my favorite meetings I've ever had on this project. It was, there was a bunch of us from all different departments actually sitting there brainstorming for a few days, all the different suit powers, all the different gadgets. And, that's a great example of Marvel letting us kind of flex the Insomniac muscles and letting us try things that maybe weren't exactly from the comics.
Sure.
And that's it. It's one of the things that makes Insomniac a really special place. There's a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds in terms of disciplines getting in a room, brainstorming, and coming up with some really cool things like the Web Blossom.
And that's the beauty of it. We've been given the great power and responsibility. We were told, make great games. So it doesn't have to exist between TV shows. It doesn't have to exist between films. It doesn't have to exist between comics, even though we're influenced by all these things. We're told, just make your own best game and let your partners, who we've chosen for a reason, to do what they do best.
Yeah, and I also want to add one more thing. A big part of that is Sony. They have supported this game so damn well, and they are unbelievably publishing partners, and I want to thank them for everything they've done over these years. They are fantastic.
That big banner when you walk in the hall, I mean, the whole setup, Sony all the way.
All right. Oh, look who it is.
Oh, Evan.
Evan Falarka. Hashtag Spidey Squad in the house.
Hey, everybody. So
I like your sweatshirt and your T-shirt.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So this game is one of the most mind-blowing experiences I've ever been able to actually play at E3. And this game, as you comes out less than 3 months. How does it feel seeing the community of everyone here, everyone who here is excited for the game, just being in love with Spider-Man and how he means so much to so many different people, and how you guys have all had your own experiences with Spider-Man in the past and making this game? How does that feel seeing everyone here who shares that same passion that you guys do, and how close you guys are to making the game, having it release, and just how that feels for all of you?
Well, I'll
you
just
should all
go.
answer this. I think that's a great question.
It feels great, and it's something that we've been waiting a long time for. Ryan said something earlier about how something feels, and you really can't get it until you get that controller in your hand and you start swinging through the city, and that's when you start to feel the magic, and there's a lot of hard work that went into that, but it's just great to see everybody do that and get that magic for themselves.
Yeah, and for me, like anytime I've been in a challenging part of production, like I'll, go look at my Twitter feed and read the comments from fans, or especially Spidey Squad, and we have such a warm community that's super, super positive, and I get a lot of, I guess, a lot of positive energy from that. So for me, it's just so great, and I can't wait for you guys to play the game. So Spidey Squad and our fans, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely incredible to see everyone playing the game at E3. And I think for me, it's really energizing to know we're going to go finish this thing, and it's just having such a great moment here at E3 with all of you, and then going back to the office, and we're gonna wrap it up and have it on the shelves in just a couple months. It's amazing.
Piggyback on what John said, talking about waiting a long time. For me, Spider-Man was the greatest hero, and I think for me, my favorite fictional character of all time, and I knew that since I was 6 years old. So I feel truly with this team behind it, the whole world will know and recognize what we all know, what we all knew grew up with, is that Spider-Man is the greatest character of all time. And he's going to inspire us and everyone to be greater. It's all thanks to them.
I mean, you guys have probably heard me, especially Evan, has interviewed me and said how important this character is to me. And this is a career highlight for me. And to work with these people every day. I mean, I sit literally like in a row next to these people, and they see me in my worst, and they still put up with me. And this is a dream of a lifetime. It is. And there was a moment last week. Ryan and I were reviewing the end of the game, and it still had some little things we were working on. But there was a moment where something happened, and I kind of said to myself, it's all going to work out, and I can't wait for you guys to see it on September 7th.
And we're getting a notice here to wrap it up. So thank you all. Thank you everyone watching
thank you all. Thank you.
Online
thank you
on
Facebook.
In.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's it?
Thank you guys.
Yeah, give it up to these guys.